Welcome to my show, Ernest Report. My name is Anna Ernst, and today I have with me a British-Swedish journalist, Pelle Neroth Tayler, documentary filmmaker, author of various books, and host of Pulse.today. Very welcome, Pelle.
Very glad to be on. Thank you, Anna.
All right. Today, it's almost a week ago since the presidential election in the United States, and I think it would be interesting to talk a little bit about what happens next. It was like the tables have been turned, and there has been a lot of reactions from ranging from relief and happiness, and people are talking about catharsis, and from and hope for the future, and to crying and whining, of course. What do you think about the reactions? Is anything that stand out for you, or have you got any commentary on that?
Well, me and my friends, it's like landing on solid land after flying for the last 2 years. I mean, 3 years almost this Ukrainian war, where Third World War could break out at any moment, and no solution in sight. It's been a terrible time, you know. And now possibly we can see the beginning of the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the first and most important thing. Then you've got the Middle East crisis and the Chinese crisis. But I think that I trust Trump. I think he's a man with good intentions. And on Rumble, but he was banned on YouTube for 2 years. And in the meantime, he put up a lot of his policy positions on Rumble, which is a little watched outlet, even though it's all for free speech. It's the go-to place if you want to see stuff that's been censored practically everywhere else. But now these are circulating on X, and there's nothing that any liberal wouldn't disagree with. Don't forget that Trump began as a liberal, and he was loved by fellow liberals. There's a very revealing video with his arch enemy Whoopi Goldberg back in 2015, where he hugged her.
Yeah.
And he was all lovey then, you know. So
yeah, he was very lovely.
When are they all going to leave the country? Exits that way. It's all so much BS.
Yeah.
And he's been calling out BS. So I don't know how many of these people are sincere, but anyway, I see it as good news. I think it could bring peace. He's a builder. He's not a warmonger.
Yeah.
He was even the one thing he did, which was assassinated Soleimani, the General Soleimani in Iran, 2020. That was under enormous pressure from the CIA. He doesn't like war, and I think that's a very positive thing, because we're ruled. There's so many narcissists and psychopaths who rule us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think he's a man with both feet on the ground, and he's got a great family who are advising him. I really respect his sons now. They've really grown and matured. J.D. Vance, great instincts, and so does RFK. He surrounded himself with people I could go out and have a drink with and vote for. And on my show, I've had a lot of these people. They're really decent people, and they really want the best for America. Make America healthy again. Who could go against that? Put a man on Mars. Who can go against that? Free speech. I mean, there's a long list of things that any classical liberal would like, you know, like independence of the inspector generals that inspect the various government departments, and making it impossible to censor online speech and so on. The thing that liberals might disagree with is deportation, but that's very popular with American people, and maybe some of the abortion positions, but that's a matter of the states, you know. But basically, if the big thing for us who are cautiously pro-Trump is whether he'll be able to put through those things that he's promised to do, and whether he truly intends. I mean, there's some people I accept as an argument that he might be a Manchurian candidate or a controlled opposition. So he says all these things, but he's just bluffing. And now in power, he will not do those things, or he'll fall by the wayside because he's not powerful enough to take on the deep state. So that's my main worry, that he won't be able to do that. But and then secondary worry, not that big, as it, you know, that he is the enemy after all. But what we see so far, it's all good, you know, and be broad consensus that everyone hates woke culture, don't they, by now?
Yeah. What do you think he will do first? He said about the border, for instance. I mean, millions of illegal immigrants, and the people really voted against open borders, and hundreds of thousands of children, unaccompanied children, have actually disappeared, and many fear that they have gone into sex trafficking networks. It's really a mess. What do you think?
I mean, that's one of the first things. He's going to institute a mass deportation program from, I think there are about 11 million illegals, and there's several gangs have opened up branches of Venezuelan gangs. They've taken over blocks of flats, in Colorado and so on. And he's going to stop that rot. You can't have a functioning country if you don't have functioning borders. I think whatever your political persuasion, you realize that's a very important thing, because it's a political community needs to be stable and balanced, and needs taxpayers who don't come in and go out, and gangs going in and coming out. And I wish we learned that in Europe. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think he's going to deport. He's going to use the Pentagon. He's going to use the army to do that. I don't know. I'm not so read up on the details. I mainly follow his free speech and his Ukraine and other stuff. But I think the road ahead could be a rocky one. I mean, there's the Pentagon apparently is already talking about how it's beyond their the legal. They don't have the legal right to intervene in domestic issues like that. And
Right.
there are people all over the bureaucracy, you can't underestimate that, prepared to sabotage Trump, and you can do huge things from the inside. That's why he's also good. I mean, it's like the Bolshevik regime on November the 7th, they've got a huge task of reforming a country, and there are not that many of them. He's got to put the right people in charge. And a lot of the bureaucracy are against it, because it'd be like Turkey's voting for Christmas, voting for Trump. That's why 96% of Washington, D.C. voted for Kamala Harris, because they want their jobs, jobs doing nothing or doing bad things for America, basically.
Right.
But I don't know. What do you know about the deportations?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I mean, always drawing parallels to Europe and Sweden. And it's, it will be very, very interesting to follow how this will come about, and how he will do it, and how much he will be able to accomplish. And but I mean, right now it's just a feeling of, it's fantastic that the people are with him. They want this, and that's something that we could do in our countries also, hopefully.
Well, it's interesting that he's got a large number of non-whites supporting him.
Yeah.
So I mean, on the one hand, you say, well, both you and I know that ethnic homogeneity is a good thing. You wouldn't want 10 million Chinese brilliant IQ 150 programmers in your country. That's the point. It's not always about Islam and so on. It's about cohesion.
Yeah.
And so Trump has basically signed up for a multiracial America. He's got people supporting them for that, but he doesn't want more of that, I guess. But I mean, you can't say he's a racist now, because he's actually got backing from huge numbers of Latinos and blacks. So he's actually formulated a big tent willing to give him a chance, So that's important.
Yeah. I think just returning a little bit to the voters, as you are mentioning, there was an unexpected, a lot of young people voting for Trump, and that his son Barron had a large part in that coming about. And that's really interesting, because the Republicans, I mean, they have maybe had a feeling of that the young generation is not a little bit lost. But now there were a lot of young people voting for Trump. And
that's right.
Barron,
the biggest gain was even among young women,
Yeah, it was not only the men. And it's really interesting, because Barron encouraged him to go on these podcasts and other platforms where he will reach out to young people, and it paid off.
Absolutely. I can well see election 2052 Barron Trump, would be one of the candidates. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
That's very good. And we all know it's useful to have a child in the house or a young person, because they just give you insights into those things that they take for granted, but you're not even aware of. Yeah, and I think it was a very good gamble. I mean, Kamala rejected. She was too arrogant to go and see Joe Rogan. But Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, that's the new media. It's not the new media. It's the media. The others are details. They're
and people have seen through it. So the people don't want it any longer. So that's also what the election showed us.
We're seeing a popular revolution, or we're seeing something like the Protestantism conquering. I mean, it's like as important as the Reformation, or as important as the People's Revolution of 1989, or as important as the French Revolution or the American Revolution of 1776. The people have risen. Normal people in America have risen against the utterly corrupt oligarch class, the elites, the lawyers,
Mm.
and then the race grifters, you know, the people and the bureaucrats and so on.
Yeah.
And this almost like a political class. I mean, it's almost like Neil Ferguson, who's an American British historian at Harvard. He says it's like the late Soviet Union. Nobody believes in the elites anymore. They
No.
do. Nobody believes in the media. They're just a bunch of liars,
Yeah.
lying every time they open their mouth. They're lying. They're lying to the people, and they're lying to their political leaders, so that political leaders are navigating deaf and blind. They don't know what's going on because they read the crappy New York Times. So they think they're winning when they're losing. They think Ukraine's winning when Ukraine's losing. It's
Yeah.
the idiots. They actually, that not only do they despise the public, but they have no right to despise the public. As a leader, you should never despise your public.
Exactly.
You must
Mocking and
empathize and
despising.
represent them. Secondly, you've got to guide. If you're a leadership class, there are two things: you've got to be representative, you've got to like your people, and two, you've got to lead them well. They do neither. They despise their people, and then they so stupid themselves that they can't navigate the problems of the world because they believe in their own mainstream media, their own propaganda, and they're all DEI hires or whatever. That's why we're living like they're like Marie Antoinette. They're out with them, all of them. We need the same in Europe.
Yeah. I was thinking about Tucker Carlson had an election movie where he put out his view about why the people love Trump, and it's because he loves them. I mean, from the heart, not being mocked and despised by an arrogant elite that has left them long time ago.
That's so true. Yeah. Obviously, Trump has worked his whole life with hard hats. They don't mind. Americans don't mind a billionaire, partly because they think, well, it takes a billionaire to beat one, you know, and they admire that. Maybe he's an American dream in some way, but he spent his whole life with builders and the normal guys up in the building sites of New York and talking the crap. He's a Democrat, for Christ's sake. He's a liberal, and they don't mind, you know, and he knows people. And I don't know. I don't think it's spit on. I think he's a kind man. I think he's a good man.
Yeah.
And if you read the old Reddits from when, did you know Trump when he was but you know, from his time in the golf course, they all love him. The hundreds and hundreds of testimonies from people working on golf courses and in his restaurants. He says he's a lovely man. He slips me $100 and so on.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Very, very popular by the people, from the people.
Yeah. And of course, they say that's what tyrants do. That's what the fuckwit media do.
Yeah.
Everyone hates the media, you know?
Yeah.
They're finished. They're finished.
They're finished. I really hope so too. Or I'm thinking about also the long run here. They have a possibility to really accomplish things, because I mean, if you have as you mentioned, they have a really strong team. J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy, Vivek Ramaswamy, and other people. And I mean, if Trump now gets 4 years and J.D. Vance could get 8 years, that's 12 years.
Yeah.
And if that, it could be actually a big, it's a long time to accomplish things. It could be possible.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping J.D. Vance will mature. I mean, he had no experience of, already the snakes in Europe are circling around him and saying, you know, this inexperienced guy, because he said, if you ban Twitter, we'll leave NATO. Love it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not the thing an experienced statesman would say, I guess. But he's showing the capacity for getting headlines and so on. So, but he looks a bit like a young Lincoln, actually. But anyway, no, we could have 12 years of bringing back normality.
Yeah.
The screwed up left wing, and they're not left wing because they're working for oligarchs and they're working for the military industrial complex. But the media, these bizarre people with their weird worldview imposing transgender stuff and wars and all the rest of it, out, they're finished. We're going back to the kind of belief system most people have, but haven't dared articulate in the West because of this intellectual tyranny we've been living under. And
I've never seen anyone handling media as well as J.D. Vance. I think he's right. He's really, really good. And
what I like about Trump, I mean, it's also he's remasculinization. It's the return of the king, basically. But it's also,
or the father.
He's got this smart, youngish. I wouldn't say 50 is young, but I mean these guys who are dynamic, not aggressive. RFK 70, really bright. These brilliant guys, these brilliant men, and who basically Democrats in their culture, kind of liberals, you know. But they, all of them. And they are can do, and that's the best about America. They're looking to the future. They're going to put a man on Mars. Trump's going to put and Musk's going to put a man on Mars. Not fight some fucking East European war for the Swedish fantasists who think they're fighting the Charles XII or the Polish fantasists who want their dream of a Polish empire. All this, or the Holocaust narrative. Oh, they're doing all this stuff. It's so 20th century. The Americans have just kick-started the 21st century, and we should be there as well. It's a great model for the rest of us.
Yeah, it is.
But it's do stuff rather than regulate, you know?
Yeah.
It's all this and I think it's
Builder.
a great thing for young males as well, because they've been lost for the last couple of years. The education system screws them around. They have no role models.
Yeah.
It's everything is so feminized. They can't get jobs because the human resources is all these women, you know, and they've got to have the right attitudes, and they don't fit in all these totally female workplaces, like in journalism and so on. They don't can't get jobs, they can't get families. All that's going to change now. We're going to see a cultural shift back to
Back to
empowering
normal.
young men.
Yeah, it's really a normalization.
Yeah.
I see him almost as a sheriff coming back to town and clean up everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, but talking about election also, the 2020 election, I mean, if you look into the result now, Trump won all the 7 swing states and got about 74 million votes. And in 2020, Biden got 81 million votes, and that was far more than Obama. So it feels a little bit not credible that such a weak candidate hardly went out rallying, lay in the cellar. How is it possible that he had 81 million votes?
Yeah.
And also about the 15 states that Harris won, there was no obligation to show identity card. So
right.
Many people have been mentioning this, and I think, do you think they will open up the archives, and what will we be?
I think there'll be an investigations of it. Yes, I think we're going to see a cleanup, just like happened in 1975 when everyone was so fed up with the Vietnam War and the political elite were on the ropes, and you started up this. Then that's when you realized that CIA had carried out political assassinations and psychological experiments, raped young women, death squads in Vietnam, bribed the media, spent LSD, bribed students with LSD and so on. Not all of it's out even yet, but it was a big realization that the American state is corrupt. And it marked a cultural shift for Americans, because they went in from the pre-Vietnam naivety to the post-Vietnam and total skepticism. And we need that was determinative, and people still write books about the Church Commission. I mean, the papers that were resulted from that. But we need a new Church Commission to deal with all the lies that we've been fed the last couple of years. COVID, intelligence was all over that story. That's all BS. A lot of the British American campaigns against Russia, you know, Bucha, so on, maybe even that plane that was bombed down. The fact that the Brits and the Americans have been supporting Islamists all over the world. The fact that the provocations that led to the war, secret agents from Britain and America bombing things and blowing things up, and then when Russia hit back, oh, it's the Russians. It's pure gaslighting. I don't say the Russians are innocent, but we need some balance there.
Yeah.
We'll have stories about the pharmaceutical industry. We'll have the FBI attempts to assassinate the president. You know, who the hell are these guys? We haven't heard anything about them. One was killed, of course, but Ruth is still in custody. Where's the trial happening? The Secret Service is going to have to be fired. All these bureaucrats who are enriching themselves are going straight from like big pharma companies to regulatory positions. Trump's going to ban that. So if you read the list of what he's going to do, which is anti-censorship, he's going to ban attempts to censorship. He's going to separate the inspection parts of the bureaucracy from the executive parts. He's going to ban people from moving from industry, from bureaucracy into industry, and so on. That's classical. Any good governance liberal would love that, you know. As I said, the only things they might disagree with are the deportations in a big way, you know, because but a lot of it stuff is classical. That's why RFK, classical liberal, joined Trump, you know.
Yeah.
So it's what I'm hoping is we're going to see a revolution in the way we've examined our governors. And as you said, the election was stolen. The 17 bellwether seats always go with a winner, and they all went with Trump in 2020, and they all went with Trump again, bar one or two, and they all went with the winning candidate from Reagan to Bush and so on, except in 2020 when they all went for Trump, but Biden won the election. These are the classical seats that always foretell an election. As you said, I don't think Trump won any state where you don't require ID. You need IDs for anything, but you don't need it to vote. So I've had experts on my show saying, Trump would have won even California if it'd been a totally free and fair vote. But it was too big to rig this time, so he won. But he's going to fix the election system and probably win with an even bigger majority next time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think we just have to mention a little bit about the Ukraine conflict and Israel also. What do you think about what will he do? Will he end? He said that he would end the Ukraine war in 24 hours. What are his chances to do anything about this?
I think he's going to get enormous pushback from the Americans, from the Brits and the French and the Europeans. His team are relatively inexperienced, and the Europeans are sophisticated and corrupt, as it were. And he needs a lot of people inside this administration who are not going to sabotage things for him. But I think that I'm hoping that, the latest is, for instance, that Macron and Starmer in Paris today to discuss escalating against Russia, and by pushing Biden to allowing them to send these long-range missiles into Russia, which Russia said, if you do that, it's World War III. So I think that Russia wouldn't do it this time because they say, we know Trump wants peace, so we're not going to give them an excuse to start World War III just when we're about to reach peace. But it shows you that the Europeans are completely irresponsible, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to get it even from Biden. But, we're not out of the woods yet.
No.
And I don't know what any peace deal will look like. I think that one possibility is that, Putin wants a neutral Ukraine. He doesn't even want territory, and he just wants the guarantees for those Russian speakers, just as, I don't know, the Brits wanted guarantees for the Protestants of Northern Ireland. He doesn't need to occupy them. I think he was pressed into doing it by circumstances, but he wanted a neutral Ukraine. So I don't think this possibility of a North Korea, South Korea divide with a NATO West Ukraine and a Russian aligned East Ukraine, it's not going to fly. I think it's going to have to be a neutral all Ukraine. And because Russia is winning at the moment, they can push until they'll carry on prosecuting the war until Ukraine's completely out of men. So Trump is setting his bar too high, I think.
Yeah.
But I know that he also speaks to a lot of the total realists that I listen to, like Colonel McGregor and so on. So maybe he knows exactly what's going on. He hasn't said anything yet. The Wall Street Journal said this North Korea, South Korea solution, but they could have been just neocons saying, putting words in Trump's mouth. I think Trump is going to be very, very careful, before he puts his deal out. But
we'll see.
And I have no view on Israel, by the way. I don't. On my show, there's a couple of guys who are really anti-Israel, and I'm not pro-Israel at all. But I kind of leave it because when I was working in the British press, I wrote about Mossad and their industrial espionage, and I was out of a job a week later. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but we could just. I think. He's more pro-Israel than Harris, and all these Islamic proxies of Iran. Stopping Iran is a question that I'm thinking about. Will he be able to stop the money flow or to affect it in any way?
I don't know. All I know that of the countries, of the regions where he's most likely to be assertive, it's probably the Middle East. And he did assassinate an Iranian general last time round, and he's always been very strong in his anti-Iran rhetoric.
Yeah.
And he did appoint as his head of the transition team for the State Department, Brian Hook, who's very anti-Iranian. So we'll see. That might be the region where he expends his geopolitical clout, as it were. But yeah.
Well, we'll see. A lot of questions. We've been discussing a lot, and I think we're going to wrap it up here. It was really, really interesting, Pelle, and I hope we will come back and discuss further these questions. And also,
Absolutely.
I hope, this dream that the election win has evoked in all of us will be that we will continue with it.
I do feel more optimistic than I have. I've been on a roller coaster for the last 3 years for various reasons, and this actually gives me some kind of platform of intellectual, emotional stability. So yeah,
I feel the same way. Well, thank you very much, Pelle, and thank you for watching.
Not at all. Bye.
Bye.